Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to my channel. I've got, thank you for all being here. Thank you for participating, likes, shares, subscribes, and comments, donations, that kind of thing. I appreciate everybody. And we thank you, Holy Spirit, for guiding us. So Holy Spirit, please give us a clear and concise message here today for the collective. No weapon formed against us shall prosper, and all negative energy projections will be returned to sender, dissolved in the ether or deemed ineffective, however the Holy Spirit sees fit. Okay, so let's get a message. Now I had these dreams, right, just recently, and they involved this patterning, right? So it's geometric, sacred geometry, right? So this was like the first drawing I did of the dream, right? But it was golden, like it was a golden light. It was like gold, right? This one was another one, but it incorporated here these, you know, like this is like the 7 chakras, right? Like this is how I'm incorporating this. But I'm not sure, I couldn't quite get this one how it was supposed to look, right? But this one I did in another drawing, but this one is, you know, like it's like a stacking of like the Merkaba, you know? But it's all triangles. So it's all geometry, sacred building geometry, right? But then, so this is what I ended up with. Can you see this? Right? Again, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, right? Okay, and it's like a cross type thing. But then I had another dream. With this one, but the light was right in the middle, but it was kind of like more like, see this little drawing I've got here, and it's like this is the star in the middle. It was shining out, but there was these 3 on either side. So this is like the heart chakra in the middle, but then there was these 3 on the sides here, and then I heard the 13th alignment, and I think that's like the 13th chakra. When they all come into alignment, there's an activation. I've got transmission, energy, activation, transmission. Okay? So I don't know whether you have seen these patterns yourself. Anybody here in the collective, let me know if you know what these are. And this one, you know, like this geometry, I mean, it's a very, very rough drawing, right? I'm going to actually do that on the graph paper so it's more geometric. But this one I seen, and then I was watching this video on old mirrors, you know, like it was a YouTube video on ancient, not so much ancient, but you know, like 19th century old mirrors, and they were all like smashed in that during the war because they were deemed dangerous, because the old mirrors were made in such a way that they were like portals to other realms, right? And in that time, in the 19th century, people would cover them over. Like people in these massive big, you know, like this is like very wealthy people had these huge, massive mirrors, and they were made like precisely specific ways that were like, it was like sacred knowledge that was passed down through generations. It was, people weren't even allowed to write down and about how they were made. It was all like through oral, you know, passing down to the next generation. and people were not allowed to leave. It was like anybody that had the knowledge was not allowed to leave this specific places where they made them. Pretty wild. But the mirrors, yeah, like, so they were like sacred, they were like portals to other realms, and at night time they used to cover them over. That was so they were made in, I think, I'm not sure, the 17th century, and then in the 19th century, they, you know, like people were scared of them because people would end up like in psychosis and whatnot, like all sorts of, you know, like you're losing their minds because of these mirrors, right? And on these mirrors, there was all this, you know, like it was all connected to stargates and whatnot, and it showed some symbols, and what was one of them was it matched my drawing that I dreamt. So yeah, it had like symbols and whatnot on it, on those nodes, but I couldn't get all them. Well, I never had them in my dream. I just seen the shapes, so I wasn't going to put that on there, right? I don't know what it is, and I don't want to know what that would invoke. You know, like, I don't know. So if you know anything about it, you know, leave comments. Yeah, leave some comments, and we'll see, right? But we'll see if anything comes out in the reading. See what the dog did. The dog ate my homework. Okay, so let's just clear a bit of energy here. So so this is very interesting. And sacred geometry has been very, very significant. Well, obviously, because I've been dreaming it, right? So yeah, and the modern mirrors don't have the same properties as what these old mirrors have, because they're not made in, and they were purposely all smashed and then made in a different way, so that they didn't have those properties anymore. But old mirrors from back at that time do. So if you've got any old mirrors, I'd be a bit careful with them, right? I don't know much about it. I was going to put a link on the thing on the description so that you could have a look if you wanted to on the video, but I thought I'd saved it, but I hadn't, so I'm sorry about that. But you could probably, you know, Google it, you know, on YouTube about old mirrors, all right, or 19th century mirrors or 17th century mirrors, all right. So, and this Queen, the Queen of the Moon is really standing out to me now. It's got some sacred geometry behind it. It's all relevant. I don't know a lot of what the symbols and stuff mean. I'm not an astrologist either, so I don't know all the symbols and, you know, like how to read the natal charts and stuff like that. I don't know how to do that. I just do readings, right? Ooh, now that wanted to come out, didn't it? Release. Wow. This could be, this is energy release. The waning crescent. So, yeah, this is the waning moon. So this is moving into like the new moon phase. I don't know what phase of the moon are we at the moment. And we've got all these butterflies on here. 27 is significant. We've got all these butterflies on here for I was going to say transmission, and I was going to say transformation, but again I heard transmission. This is after releasing the old, like, see, she's holding on to this old energy here. See how she's holding on to the ground, holding on to the earth. It's like she's holding on to that but it's like this is beckoning her to let go of that and to go to the universe, release, transmission. What did I say? Transmission. This is like an upgrade. This is a conscious upgrade. Yeah. An upgrade in consciousness. Transmission. It's another download. Somebody's getting... Yeah, it's an upgrade, right? Transmission upgrade. That's what I'm hearing. Crystalline grid, I heard. Crystalline grid. This could have something to do with the emerald tablets. Okay, what have we got here? Releasing the old. And again, like those mirrors that I was talking about, and the old mirrors held the old knowledge, and that's why they're saying that it was dangerous, because it opened a window like people would see in the mirrors at night time between 12 and 2 o'clock in the morning. There would, and there was this specific person that sat at that time to see what was going on in the mirrors, and he recorded all what was going on, and he was interacting with spirits from the from old times, right? And so it revealed a whole lot of old ancient knowledge, and a lot of it connected to the Tartarian civilization that was wiped out. And that actually, they were saying, that was another one that I was watching, was about the Tartarian civilizations that were dissolved and destroyed, and they had access to like free energy and whatnot. They had, and that was what the code was about, transmission. That's and because on their buildings they had these little, you know, like in the Muslim little pictures on the mosques. It's like that. It's kind of like this little moon, and it was like a transmission. Like it's like an aerial, and that's what they were saying about the mirrors. This bloke did all these studies, and the mirrors were like it was like to be able to transmit to the universe and to other times, but they were also able to generate. It was about generating electricity, right? Like the pyramids. Yeah. And they shut it all down, and they destroyed it during the war, 1930s. 1930s to 1940s or something like that. And that was when they destroyed the Tartarian. They were saying that those civilizations disappeared in like the 1700s, but it wasn't. It was actually in 1930s. Blossoming. Now that, I feel like that came out in reverse. Yeah, it did. Blossoming, something's not growing. Somebody needs to release something because it's preventing something from growing. Maybe it's something about letting go of the old. You know, like the things that we've been brought up with, it's like letting go of the programming, you know, because there's so much false stuff that's been programmed into our generations, you know what I mean? From since then, 1900s, 1800s, right? Through the 20th century. Okay, surrender. So yeah, this is surrendering and releasing something. Being open. Wow, this is interesting because this looks like, oh yeah, look, the mirror I was talking at the bottom of the deck. Wow, this is pretty crazy, right? So I just picked up surrender, and see how strange shapes here. They look like, I don't know, stones or something, but they're like energies. And that resembles to me like the gorge that I was in yesterday. I live right next to it, right here. And it sort of comes up in these peaks like that. And I was actually in between these rocks. Wow. Releasing the old, and then the beginnings, the bottom of the deck here, the video I watched on YouTube about the mirrors, they had this type of, you know, a lot of them had this type of decoration, right? But a lot of it, you know, it contained all these symbols and whatnot. And that's giving me like that portal to another world, right? Oh my God, Spirit. And this is what this is kind of like saying, release, letting go of like the earthly here. For transmission. Wow, I don't know whether you, if it resonates, it resonates. Okay, so that's all I can say. This is pretty deep, but I don't know why this. We'll see why blossoming is in reverse. It might be something to do with holding on to attachments of the old or of the old paradigm, right? We've got gratitude, having gratitude towards the Holy Spirit here. It's also holding on to the old. Because look, this looks like very young hands here, holding on to the old. And this person here could have come from ancient times. Number 23 could be significant. It's kind of like giving me, like, because on one hand it's saying release the old, right? But at the same time, it's holding on to hold on to the old, or to tap in to the past, because the past has been manipulated, right? Because like they were saying, and like with the Tartarian civilization being destroyed, so that their technology and connection to the universe was, and the ancient realms, same as the destruction of the mirrors, right, was to prevent people. Luna, hey, sorry, just a minute. Okay, so okay, here we are. So yeah, so this is like, so this person's holding onto the old. So this is the programming of the past, and this is you know, the programming of the material. You know, like being only connected to the material. So and not being connected to spirit, right? And here, and the ancestors. So the ancestors, this is like holding on to the ancestors here, tapping in, and having that spiritual guidance, right? Because this is what happened, you know, like with the destruction of like a lot of indigenous people that had that deep connection with their ancestors and whatnot. Their ancestors and whatnot, what am I saying? Their ancestors and the ether, the Holy Spirit, this was like a connection to the Holy Spirit, and the past programming of the last couple of centuries, it's only like 200 years or something, destroyed everything, you know, and dismembered Indigenous peoples from their spiritual connection in many ways. I mean, the Aboriginal people, you know, like and the same as the Tartarians, and they were saying, oh, that they were sort of like a dissolved civilization from the 1700s. It's like that's a lie, right? Because they found evidence of this civilization, the Tartarian civilization, being destroyed in the 1930s, right? And that's kind of like around the same time too that a lot of Aboriginal people, like here in Australia, and you know, Indigenous people in America and Africa, being separated from their ancestry and their spiritual belief systems and their connection to the Holy Spirit, like the real Holy Spirit, right? And you know, like with colonisation, and the colonisation brought all this destruction to people's connection to the ether, you know, which held the secret knowledge, and you know, like Egyptian knowledge that was connected to power, right? Power meaning energetic power, like energy, electricity, you know, as well, on a practical sense, because of fear, or they created fear surrounding that connection, and that's what happened with those mirrors. So the mirrors were, you know, like the wealthy, the very, very wealthy had all these mirrors made, and they were worth like, really, like, they were saying some of the mirrors built were worth like more than a whole year's earnings for you know, like an elite merchant, you know what I mean? And so they spent thousands of dollars on creating these huge mirrors in their big, you know, palaces and hallways, and you know, those big buildings with those massive mirrors. But they had a purpose, and it was about generating power and having that spiritual connection. The same as the Tartarians with their, you know, their mosques with their like antennas, and see the mirrors created like an antenna type situation as well. You know, they go into it and they talk about how, you know, the angling and all that sort of stuff with the mirrors had the same effect. But then, you know, like they put the fear in the next generation, they put in the fear of people, you know, going crazy because of having that connection to the afterlife, and you know, it was demonized as well. And so they used to cover these mirrors at night time, and they shut off that connection because they didn't know how to deal with it, right? Well, that was probably safe for them. If you don't know how to deal with it, you know, like that is probably the safe way to go. But and this one, you know, this is like giving me the Indigenous with the, you know, it's the nodes, you know, like right across the planet, you know what I mean? There's crystalline nodes, and there's these portal gateways. It's the same thing in these rocks, right? So it was stifling, and this is why we've got blossoming in reverse here, because I'm cutting people off. See, because this person here is releasing, still holding on to that programming, and that is causing a blockage to the higher realms and to like the Holy Spirit. There's a blockage to that real spiritual guidance that we get, right? If you're here, you know what I'm talking about. Because of fear. Yeah, this is the spiritual guidance, right? See that little bird carrying that person in the nest? Because if you cut off that spiritual connection, this is connected to natural law, right? And that was it with the Tartarians too. They lived closely with the with nature and the natural law of nature, and they also incorporated a lot of the sacred geometry in their architecture. Like, Muslims too, like a lot of indigenous, lots of indigenous, all of them, all had some type of sacred geometry. I mean, like even like with Aboriginal Australians, like with their dot paintings and on their tools and weapons and stuff like that. There's this, it's the same sort of, and they did it in the dirt, you know what I mean? So it was ephemeral. They would have ceremony, and they would use geometric shapes and patterns in the sand, during ceremony. Yeah. Okay, so, wow, this is pretty cool. Right, so here we go. We're drawing on some ancient knowledge here. Okay, so clarify the release, please, Spirit. Holy Spirit, Holy Ancestors, here we go. Release, hang on. Clarify the release, please, Spirit. Transcendence. Release and transcend. Somebody's holding onto the wheel, stopping the wheel, right? The natural flow, the natural law, that there's a spanner in it, and this is in reverse. This is this juggling. But also that flow, like. So there's like the Ouroboros, right? It's a continuous flow, right? Of nature, life and death. And we had the Queen of Cups, so I'm not sure how that was supposed to come out. In reverse. This is a blockage of, Mother Earth, right? I've just heard. Blocked. This is, cutting off that connection to nature. That's what this is. You lose that connection to nature, and this is what it's always been about, right? Oh, I've spoken about this before. So there was like extreme, it was extreme measures to cut people off from connecting to nature and like the natural flow of life, which incorporates the sacred geometry, which I'm getting here with the wheel. See the birds, everything is connected. There's that pattern in the middle. All life's, yeah. Everyone being connected. As long as we still have that connection to the ether, we have flow, we have the continuous wave, like the patterns. Everything's a pattern, everything happens in patterns. Now, there's a whole lot of wacky stuff going on in America I've seen. I don't know the videos, how real the videos are, or whether it's like hyped up AI. This is the problem, is that, like being so disconnected from nature and being caught up in the, technology and just seeing everything that's being fed to us. We don't know what's real and what isn't, and it's causing people to be disconnected from even each other and their empathy for nature and each other even. Well, we're supposed to be part of nature, right? We are. That's what we are. But these those people that want to control everything, I don't even know if I can call them people, right? Entities that wanted to control everything, everyone. That was the big major step, the main aim, or is that the right word? That's not the right word. The main agenda, or that's not the agenda, it's not the aim, that's the tool, like the way to cut everyone off so that they can be easily controlled. So that and it is cutting it off from fertility. The Queen of Cups is like the fertility goddess, right? The Queen of Love, which is life. Love comes with life, and the respect of those past. And, the Holy Spirit is made up of all those past, right? It's giving me all those butterflies, all those past. The ether is made up of all those past. And to not have the connection to that's like being connected to like the real history, right? And that's what they were shutting everyone from, stopping everyone from actually knowing the real history, the real connection we have with life and God, the ether, the Holy Spirit. Mother Earth, all nature, all the universe. It was to cut off that connection and to be programmed for slavery, pretty much in the material system. And it's caused people to be stagnant and not bloom, and even the flowers to grow, and the bees, all of nature. Clarify the Queen of Cups here, and the Two of Pentacles. Love, Ace of Cups. Love brings all life, right? And that connection. Oh, look, that's giving me like she's looking into the mirror. This crow is looking into the reflection in the cup, and that's giving me that mirror, and that's looking into the ether. And this one's bringing the offerings and acknowledging of all those past, and all those past keeps the connection alive and the knowledge alive to be able to live in nature, like through our DNA strands, and you know, like, and that's the thing. Like, the more we're detached, the more our DNA codes change, right? So this is bringing back the wow, the crystalline codes. The codes are is the geometry of all nature and life. It's the different codes for all life, right? And it's that knowledge. So, like, you know, like, for example, I think I've used this metaphor before, you know, like a sheepdog that has been, you know, like a sheepdog naturally knows how to round up sheep, right? They don't actually have to be taught by the parent. They can be taken away from the parent and they already know because it's in their genetics. They already know how to do it, right? And it's like when we have skills and stuff that we inherit skills to know how to, well, we did, right? When we were still connected to Mother Nature and the universe, and we listened to our ancestors because we didn't need to actually, we didn't even need to grow up and learn because we could as long, well, we did because we learned from the ancestors, right? Because they can tell us in the ether straight up. That's that pure connection to God, right? Like, that's the direct, you get the direct downloads is through those crystalline codes, right? There's those codes that connect us to, like, oh yes, we can eat this in the bush, or we hunt like this, or we know how to do this, or we know, you know, like, we can learn how to build structures and whatnot from our ancestors because they already had the knowledge. They already had the knowledge, and all we had to do is like tap in and, you know, like we say our prayers, Holy Spirit, Holy Ancestors, you know, like, how do we do this? And then we can sleep on that. We can dream the codes of how to do things from our ancestors, right? Because we inherit that in our DNA, how to do it, you know? I think I have spoken about this before. And so in cutting us off from that connection, we become dependent on those that cut us off from our ancestors and the ether, right? And the big bloody stories that they've told us to believe to keep us suppressed and to demonize that connection has cut us off from being able to be sovereign and independent, because they cut us straight off from our natural abilities come from our ancestors, because it's in our DNA. And when we tap into them through meditation, through different ways of being still and quiet and listening to the ancestors. Most of it's about just being still and listening, hearing it, asking the question, but giving thanks and gratitude. Gratitude is the big one. You know what I mean? You give thanks to the ancestors. See this young hand holding this old hand is giving thanks. It's like saying thank you for that knowledge, right? I find the mirror thing is very fascinating, because that was kind of like a new developed way of accessing the ether and the ancestors, you know what I mean? But it's still the same thing as what, like, Aboriginal people would do with their ceremonies and dance and the sacred geometry that they would use in their in the sand patterns and that kind of thing. And, you know, like, this is also bringing to mind the codes that we see with, you know, the what do they call them? The field, you know, those the geometric shapes that come on the patterns in the fields, and they just turn up and people don't know where they've come from. It's the same. That's the frequency. So it comes from the frequency, and that's what's happening when with singing and you know, like singing song lines. It's the frequency that creates the geometric shapes and patterns for creation. It's the singing, the sound, the voice, right? Speaking into existence. And those patterns have come from a sound frequency, and it can be a frequency that you can't hear, you know what I mean? Wow, this is wild. All these connections. And that's what they wanted to shut us off from, the magician. Being able to have the tools. See how he's got all the tools there? He's got the pentacle, he's got the cup, he's got the sword, he's got the wand, and he uses all these tools, and they're the tools that we get from our ancestors to know how to manifest, how to use the correct frequencies, or the correct ways of doing things, you know what I mean? Like even in agriculture and stuff like that, you know, like how do we do this and how do we do that? Even like how do we ride a horse, you know what I mean? How do we connect with our animals? People can't even do that, you know? Wow. Yeah. And they call it misinformation. So we'll see how we go with this video, whether it gets published or not. Oh. But you see, all these videos are published on YouTube, but you know, like, so the information's all there. It's just about connecting the dots, blossoming. But see, yeah, something I've been in trouble for before is connecting all the dots, right? Ace of Cups, a new beginning. So this is actually returning to the old. Now, I was talking about this the other day, about the stars coming into the water. See the geometric shapes coming into the water to create life. Now, we can speak life into existence in the water, right? And we can do that to heal ourselves, you know, like speak into your water, is speak into your food, healing, you know what I mean? You can ask the ancestors, your ancestors, to heal. Pretty much, it's like saying to heal the geometric shape, the forms that create our different organs and whatnot. It's realigning. So we use frequency, right? So the frequency creates a pattern. It shapes all the atoms, right, into alignment. So I'm just putting this onto my throat chakra. So I'm getting a little bit of a sore throat here. Somebody might not like what I'm saying, but you know, too bad, right? So when, now I've spoken about this before many times as well, about you know, that's what the singing is, the song lines, the sounds, the frequencies. You know, like say if you've got an ailment and you use a frequency to, and you put it next to whatever's broken, and you can do that with water or whatever, and you can realign the pattern, the geometric pattern shape of all those atoms that create, that's the, like the Merkaba, right? The structure, and all those little structures come together like these triangles. Bear with me. Yeah, like the triangle. So I tried to, I mean, I've got a 2D example there, you know, like all the little structures being put into alignment to recalibrate, right? Recalibrate the sacred geometry within all the atoms within the body, or within everything in the songlines of our planet, right? It's the geometry. See, and I tried to draw a little 3D one there of like a Merkaba, but yeah, I haven't done a very good job. But you know, that's like two pyramids, you know. But yeah, so it's the sacred geometry of all things. I mean, I do know that, right? I mean, I don't. There's a lot of different symbols for different things. I don't know what all those symbols are, and patterns, but that's the basis of all, right? Just different. So if you've got the triangle, the square, and the circle, and that creates all configurations. Okay. You know, like, you know how you have your Mandela and whatnot, the snowflake, and it, you know, like everything is made up of a frequency that has its own pattern. Okay, and that's what that's given me there. So the shapes going into the water and creating life. So putting shapes together, right? With sound, with frequency. And that's how they created the crop circles. That's what I was trying to say. That's frequency. The hangman. But see, yeah, and with blossoming in reverse here, that's the blockage, is to cut people off from that sacred knowledge. And that's what's happened. So by letting go of what we've been programmed in the last 200 years and actually looking at the ancient technology, that's what it is. People say, oh, this is new age and all that sort of stuff, but it's not new, it's ancient, right? It's not new at all. It's just we have the Six of Wands, which is a that's the I was just about to say that's the Antichrist there. Wow, spirit. But this is the authoritarian that wanted to keep hold of the geometry, of the knowledge for themselves, so they could control the rest of the masses, because they're selfish and want everything for themselves, right? How did they get to that is the question. How did those... Oh, someone will know that. Someone will come out and say, because there's all, you know, like the stories of the Anunnaki and Gilgamesh and all those stories. The Knight of Wands, the bottom of the deck. Fast impulse action, because it has been fast, right? It was a big ending of, you know, like it was a big assault on humanity to cut them off from their source, because it's cutting them off from source, like cutting people off from God, like their own connection, and then they put themselves in between to be like a middleman to the knowledge of what we should have, like direct, right? We have direct knowledge from our ancestors, from the ether, from God. We get it ourselves. But this, I don't know where that crow was, but the authoritarians wanted to be that middleman. You know, I think I was talking about that the other day and described it like, you know, the old-fashioned phone connection. You know, where they pop the, you know, you had to ring up the operator and get them to put you through with a line to get to who you wanted to talk to. This is the authoritarian that wants to have reign over our connection to the higher realms, to even our higher selves, right? Because that's how we connect. Through our higher selves, we can connect to the higher realms where God resides in the ether. right? And the ancestry, and the ancestry is like you know, people aren't going to like what I say, but it, all the ancestries in the ether, right, make up God. Okay, take it as you will, right? That's from Gaten. But these are the authorities. The authoritarian wanted to be that. They wanted to be God. They wanted to be all that ever was. And you know, from the you know, this is eternity, right? All that ever was. They wanted to be all that ever was. But how can they be all that ever was? That's God, right? All that ever was. God is all that ever was and ever is and ever will be. Right? Okay. So it's kept people stuck in this hangman because they've been attached to those that want to be God, and they wanted to have control over everything, all living life, and then create AI, this false narrative of this create a dead world for AI to be king, is what I'm hearing. Oh dear. But how can that be? Because it doesn't matter what they create, they can't be God, right? They can't be all that ever was. AI is a man-made thing, you know what I mean? It's a man-made, you know, and robots and whatnot, they're a man-made thing. It's a thing. Actually, that's something that I was getting in my meditations a lot, was they kept saying to me, it's a thing, it's not human. It's a thing, it's not life. Surrender. Surrender the burdens of the material. See how they're carrying all this stuff, things, the material world, right? And that's what this person here is holding on to. See? Holding on to that material. And this is saying, release that and you can have the whole universe. You have connection to the whole universe. You can have whatever you want if you let go of that. But everybody's been, it's surrender. The Spirit's saying surrender. Surrender to God. Surrender to the Holy Spirit. All that ever was. All that ever will be. Everything. The universe. Surrender. Let go of the baggage. So someone's got to let go of the baggage. See, it's the shadow. Go within and see the shadow, and then you see what the burdens are. Judgment is here. See the Holy Spirit. Everything dies and moves to the ether, and is born consistent. Life, death, life, death, life, death. But see, this is the Ouroboros, right? The eternity. But see, this is in reverse. It won't be going for eternity if people cannot release, right? The burdens of the material. And this is where faith comes in too, you know, like we have faith in the universe, we have faith in God, we have faith in the universe, right? So when you release, if you've done this, if you've released everything, if you've been out there and you've given everything up, right? If you've lost everything in your life, a lot of the collective have, right? Because that's why you're here. Released everything and relied solely on faith, right? On God, on the universe to provide, as it was. You know, right? That you receive. Because everything that ever was is what we have a connection to if we surrender all that has been put in it, like that big smoke screen that's in front of us. Behind the veil is everything, the whole universe, right? It's justice. There's the four winds. The square, the four winds. See that little square? Because the knowledge comes to us through the four winds. And you only have to ask. Ask and God will provide, right? We don't have to fight so hard, we don't, you know what I mean? We get all the knowledge we need as long as you ask. And with love, intention. We've got the lovers here. And what I'm seeing here is the geometry as well. You see all these building blocks? Little squares and circles and whatnot? Bringing things together, building a heart, working together. And this is fertility, right? It's life, fertility, new beginning. Yeah. King of Cups is at the bottom of the deck. The lovers. Third party, group, drinking from the cups. So this has gone from 2 to 3. 1, 1, 2, 3. This is love, given. You know, like the multiplication. It's giving me, you know, like how the cells, you know, grow, they, you know, pop off. That's what this is giving me. And it just multiplies, right? Life. Yeah, cells multiplying and growing, you know, like growing a baby or whatever, you know, and they just multiply, boom, 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 boom. You know what I mean? And it starts with the 2, the fertility. But so much has, even the 2 trees, the 2 crows flying, the 2 crows here with the 1 heart, 2 crows, 1 heart. The 2 crows with 1 heart is like two bodies with 1 soul. Is this the twin flame? 1 heart. One way is one way. It's one way. I'm getting it's one way, like you know, the Wu way, the way of less resistance. It's releasing and letting go, and letting things grow and letting things evolve. You know, in divine timing. You know, because everything is divine timing. Everything has to. Everything grows at its own speed. You know what I mean? And there's a pattern in that. And there's your sacred geometry there, even. You know, the timing, and that's the timing of the seasons, and you know, like how things grow at different times of the year, and you know, the tides coming in and out, and the moon, you know, the moon cycles, all that. That's what the symbol. That's what this. Yeah. Creates life, and it multiplies. The beginning and gratitude, and then having gratitude creates more. It helps it multiply. This is the good news. This is the good news. For people that haven't learnt their lessons, we have a King of Pentacles. This is abundance, right? Abundance. A new passionate beginning. The yellow brick road. Following spiritual guidance. This is the ancestors of those feathers. That's, you know, like listening to the synchronicities. But you've got to be still to hear. You've got to be in the present to see. You know what I mean? You have to be still. You can't be chasing the dollar all the time. You know, like you can't be on the treadmill. You can't be frantically in that system, you know, of always chasing the tail. We've got a star in reverse. A Hierophant. So we've got someone here, someone here. This is like the false prophet. Now, I don't know whether you've seen my video the other day, and then we've got sabotage, see? The false prophet and the sabotage of all life. Now, you can only see death and destruction here, right? Look at all this storm and the dead person there and swords, and it just looks like the end of it looks like a battle, right? Battleground. That's what's happened, you know, like this is the false prophet. And if you've seen my video the other day about the false prophet being the false material, the pentacle, the money, the material gain. The real prophet is in natural law, in the natural order, in the sacred geometry, the natural order of things, the natural cycle of things, the way of less resistance. Because humanity has been fighting for material, you know, like just fighting to live, right? Because they've been programmed to work for the hierarchy that has the power at this time, for the last 200 years. The slave society has been a battleground, right? But it doesn't need to be that. Somebody's not learned their lessons here. This is a hierophant. This is the hierarchy. This is like a church, right? It's a church, or it's the entity. But they're not the start. Because they've disconnected humanity from life and only cause destruction. So destruction is not life, right? So they haven't learned their lesson. greed. That was another one I did just recently. Wow. It's pretty deep, eh? So let's clarify a bit more. Let's go into this a bit deeper. Still got some tea? Oh, I have. I've got my tea. Oh. I hope everybody's well. So, can you clarify, please, the Wheel of Fortune in reverse here with the Queen of Cups in reverse? I think we might have already gone through everything. Yes, this is humanity not learning the lessons, not knowing. Well, they just, they've been programmed. The Two of Pentacles in reverse with the Ace of Cups. Yeah, it's become unstable. Okay. And I feel, like nature's starting to fight back. I don't know whether those videos I've seen in America, like with the animals going weird and everything. It's a bit obvious at the times that we're in, right? Ace of Cups, Hangman. Now I did a painting years ago. You hear that? It's cane toad. Sound like barking dogs sometimes. What's I saying? Let's get him on. The Ace of Cups. Let me let me come back. The Hangman, the stuck energy, the new beginning. Yeah, that's what I was saying. I did a painting years ago called Transcendence, and I did like an avatar type human. Well, it wasn't a human being, and I had like all these green vines and whatnot was in the veins, in the blood of the entity, and they had like this very sad face, right? And it was about letting go, like there's going to be a big loss, release. This is the big release, right? A big loss for the new beginning to become unstuck from those burdens. And this is going to be pretty traumatic. And look, like I even think that this is the Ten of Pentacles, right? There's got this big chunk out of it. Right there, that's symbolic right there, right? The big chunk out of the pentacle. Oh, also the chakra, I don't know what this, is that? Is this what we call the Cabal? Is it? It's missing some chakras, right? The throat and the eye. Wow, is that what that is? It's like what I've drawn there. What is it? But it's missing the throat and the third eye chakra. See? 3. I don't know if this is relevant or not, because I don't really know all the meaning of this. But see how these two spaces here? Is that a break in the pattern of how it's supposed to be? worry. Yeah. Look. This one down here. And then look at that. It's missing these two chakras. And what I heard, energy transmission, when the 13th chakra is in alignment. So if it's missing chakras, it's not going to bring the energy of creation. It's blocked. And it's interesting that it's at like the throat chakra and the third eye chakra, which it's kind of interesting that it's still got the crown chakra, so it's still got an entrance to the crown, but entrance from what? Because the third eye is missing. If that's what that symbolises, but that's how I'm seeing it now, right? Because of these are like the outer energy field that we have, because we have the centre where all our chakras are lining up through the centre, but the outer is like our outer chakras that sit outside of ourselves, right? Wow. And this is the material card too, so it's also family, but we're missing, the feminine. Interesting how this is just working out. This piece that's missing here, it's the feminine missing. Look. We've got the masculine, we've got children here, we've got the loyal dog. The feminine is missing. Well, she's only got a head. She's got no body. Detached. Body detached. Well, that might say a lot for us, right? Detached from the physical. The feminine detached from the body. The feminine So, does the feminine energy rule the third eye chakra and communication? Because the feminine energy holds the wisdom, right? And the communication, right? Is that ancient Egyptian? The third eye and the throat chakra is feminine energy. It's missing. And this is like the root chakras. Everything is just run by the masculine, which isn't the masculine energy more the root chakras, the lower chakras, which is the physical, right? The creative. That's Thoth, right? There's the architect. And the solar plexus, the sun, the energy. That's where but the feminine is I don't know, right? And then we've got this Hierophant here at the bottom of the deck with this staircase. And this is like looking up to the tree of life. This is a celebration here. He's at the bottom of the deck. This is like enlightenment. The steps to the tree of love is blocked. Surrender. But see, it's not balanced. But to surrender the burdens of the physical, right? The material, and there will be justice. The root chakra, look at that. The player, the masculine. This is a masculine, hot, sacral and root chakra type energy. And that's that's connected to the material, right? The earthly desires, the what is it? The carnal desires. Clarify the lovers and the Three of Cups, please. Or clarify the justice first, please. I kind of said it, didn't I? Letting go of those carnal desires will bring justice. The balance, bring back the balance. The lovers. So you've got to have the masculine. Yeah, there has to be the balance of the masculine and the feminine energy, and that's the snake there. Now, was it Sophia that tried to create on her own without a masculine, and then created the archons, the demon, the big snake, the big dragon thing, and then she had to realise her mistake, right? And it created the archons somehow. I don't know the full story, but it created the archons that don't have the connection to spirit, the Holy Spirit, because, yeah, I think it was Sophia tried to work without Thoth or something like that. I don't know, correct me if you know how it goes. So she tried to create on her own, and then created the archons that had no connection to God or the Holy Spirit, and that's why we ended up with these energies that had to draw off humanity and take away that. You draw that energy and take away that connection to the holy power, the Holy Spirit, so that they could draw their energy and use them as slaves in the matrix. Have I got it right? Yeah. To be able to control the masses. The laurel leaves, is that not symbolic of that? Clarify the lovers and the Three of Cups, please. Yeah, stopping the movement. The Chariot in reverse. Having control of all movement. The Devil. There we go. Untempered. The Devil is untempered. Out of control. The Devil is out of control. But you see, there's going to be a great loss, right, for this new beginning. Clarify the Page of Wands. This is good news. And the King of Pentacles. What is this? The Page of Wands and the King of Pentacles. Page of Wands and the King of Pentacles, please. We have a victory. Out of control and then victory. Ooh. This could be a false victory. Is this like false gods, false victory, false idols? Again, we've got the laurel leaves there, right? The stage, the manipulation through like music industry, entertainment, entertainment, media, you know, everything. For the pinnacle, the abundance. The king with his golden crown is, you know, he's gobbling up all the abundance for himself. He's got it all piled up on his throne there, right? Clarify the 9 of Wands, please, Spirit. Ooh, someone being left out in the cold. Yeah, so this is the majority of the population. This is the majority of humanity. Ooh, we've got the symbols there on the door, on these pentacles. Ah, and we've got the key to the door with the symbols on the door, right? This person is here in sorrow and misery without connection to God, right? But all they've got to do is look up. The geometry's here, the symbol's here. The key is here to open the door, to get out of this, but they can't get out of it. They're not even looking up, right? It's the wounded warrior in reverse. They can't even get up. They're miserable. They've got no, because they've got no spiritual connection. They've got no connection to the ancestors. They've been cut off completely from the Holy Spirit, from God. Got the Ace of Wands. Clarify the Ace of Wands. The Magician chewed half of the manifestation away. It's been eaten away. Like they can only half create. They can't. So it's like missing a major piece, right? The Magician here, this is like the archons, because they can't, and this can be seen as AI, right? They don't have the emotion in it. They're just like empty shells, right? They can't produce the empathy and the ideas. They can't, because they don't have the connection to source, which is all that ever was, right? All that ever is, and all that ever will be. They don't have that connection, so they can't create it without having to be able to draw from humanity's connection to that, and they've taken it off them. And yeah, so what do? They go for those that still have the connection, right? To take it from them. But they'll run out, right? They'll run out if they keep destroying and shutting down people's connection to source. So then where will it come from? Right? So you can see this in two ways. Where will it come from if all the resources have been used up on the planet, right? Because the creation of life comes from source, all that ever was, right? And humanity's part of that, who are supposed to be connected to source, right? They're supposed to have that direct connection to source so that they can keep creating, because creating comes with manifestation. So this is like being a humanity is the co-creators for everything, right? For everything. Because we still need humanity to work with God, work with the universe, to create all life. Humanity still has to have that connection to be able to survive, but not only just survive for humanity, survive for all creation, all life. Because if they keep going, everything will be consumed and there won't be anything left. So this is sort of like the coming in of the nothingness. I don't know if anybody's ever seen Doctor Who, but I remember there was a series of Doctor Who that it was awesome, the later versions, where, now who was it? It was not David Tennant. Was it David Tennant when he was the Doctor? And there was an episode where the nothingness was coming. It was the nothingness was coming. And I think Stephen King did like the Langoliers, where the nothingness was coming and it was eating away at everything, and then there would be nothing. Yeah, that's right. And with the Doctor Who, I think all the stars were disappearing, right? Oh my goodness. And isn't that what they were saying about what's happening in America? The stars are disappearing because it's light all day. Is this real? Right? Tell me if you're there. Because I've seen a video, but I don't know what to believe, what's real and what isn't, you know, like online. But if you're there in America, let me know if that's what it is like. Like it's like the light in the sky, and you can't see any stars. It's like the stars are gone. It's like something's missing because it's light all the time. Wow. Oh gosh. Okay. Clarify the star, please. The star is in reverse. The star's in reverse. Did I not say? Strength. Leo. The Lamb and the Leo. Humanity and the animals. Strength. I don't know where this strength card's coming into it. They've got the Ouroboros tattooed on the arm there. All life, creation. And we've got humanity and the beast. The star is in reverse. The stars are gone. What is this saying, Spirit? The Hierophant, clarify. The Hierophant and the star in reverse. And the strength. We've got an Emperor. This Emperor might think they're in control, but they're not. But Spirit's there. We've got heartbreak. Now maybe this person has got, but it's almost like he's not paying attention. It's like Spirit's here. You can see how this is coming down here. He's holding, is it the king or is it the queen? I think that's the queen, the chess piece. He's holding the queen. And the Spirit is here, but it's like he's not paying attention. And it's like he's just holding the queen, the feminine energy, and not really, it's like he's just holding on to it, but not really engaging with the feminine energy. It's like he's daydreaming or some damn thing. Spirit's there, but he's not paying attention. And I don't know what he's doing with this queen. I don't think he knows what he's doing. This is like an emperor that doesn't know what they're doing. Somebody that's in control. And this is this Hierophant here. They're not in control. It's like they're not paying attention. Oh. And isn't that what it says in the end times, like, about, I don't know if it says something about the stars, not being able to see the stars, or the light, or it was about, like, all humanity, like they go through all these calamities, they're still getting married, they're still just going along with life, just doing, with all this destruction and crazy shit going on. And they're not, like, paying attention. It's like they're not, like changing their ways or anything. They're still not connecting with the Holy Spirit because they're just daydreaming. Like they're cut off from the Spirit. It's like Spirit's there right in front of them, but he's not paying any attention. And the stars are gone. And it's something to do with him just like dangling the feminine energy. Again, we've got this missing feminine here. And again, it's the throat not saying anything, and the third eye not seeing. Not seeing, he's not seeing what's going on. He's there, but he's not seeing, with the third eye. And he's not paying attention to the feminine that's missing, the fertility. And the throat not saying anything. Yeah, something about the seeing and the not saying. The third eye chakra is blocked, there's no stuff, and nobody's saying anything. With all this destruction going on. But what is the Strength card doing here? What is the Strength card doing here? Yeah, no knowledge. People don't know shit. Because they're not even paying attention. They're not seeing. No knowledge. And it's just this Leo energy, this masculine, it could be coming out with the Leo because it could be like stubborn, masculine energy, Yeah. Clarify the Five of Swords, the King of Cups, the emotion of water. Battling the King of Cups. Which is the feminine side of the masculine, right? The King of Cups is the feminine of the masculine. He's meditating, he's emotional, he's love. And it's like this arrogant emperor is fighting the feminine, masculine. The feminine side of the masculine is missing. That's what he's battling with. He doesn't know, like he's got no knowledge of the feminine side of the masculine. That's what's missing. The feminine, yeah, the masculines are missing their feminine side. And they're battling with that. They're not moving on to calmer waters. They're fighting with them. It's like fighting themselves. They're fighting. They're not moving to calmer waters. They want to fight. They want to battle. They want to be, you know, violent and, you know, all in their root chakras. And so they've got nothing coming in. So God's not providing for them. The Knight of Pentacles in reverse. So they're not getting anything. They're not. Clarify the Knight of Pentacles in reverse. Oh, the Three of Cups. There's no coming together. There's no community. And again, that's giving me the stars falling out of the sky, or the stars in reverse. There's no community. There's no coming together. They're going to lose. They're going to lose all the material. Wow, big tower. Three Cups in reverse. Balancing to balance things out. So there's going to be a massive loss. That's what I was going to say. This is not good news, because the feminine energy, the Empress is in reverse. And they don't care. It's been exposed. Oh, there's been all these lies to create the burdens. No leap of faith. See, no faith. There's no faith. There's lies. They've been exposed. They're not sad, so they don't care. But this is going to be destructive, but it's so that things can be balanced out. With the feminine energies. Because, you know, we haven't got the feminine energy here much at all on the table. She's cut out of this part thing here. The Queen of Cups here at the beginning, right? The Wheel of Fortune is in reverse because the feminine energy is in reverse. How many feminine energies do we know that are too much in their masculine? They're all getting around like blokes, you know? They all wanted, you know, I won't go into that, that's a whole nother story. Okay, Six of Pentacles. Yeah, to create balance, walking away. This is surrendering. Walking away from everything. To come out of the Ten of Swords. To balance things out. Somebody has to walk away to balance things out. So this is the surrender. The surrendering of all the false narratives. Ooh-wee, my goodness. So, wow. Let's get a message from our goddesses here. Let's bring some feminine energy into the equation, shall we? Blessed by the goddess. Yeah. Okay. Let's close out with our feminine goddesses. What message? What have we got here? Babu. When you feel despair rising, Babu, the Greek goddess of good cheer and mirth, will come and banish the gloom, just as she did for mighty Demeter. The blessing of laughter will lighten the load lighten the load you've been carrying. So there you go. Call on Babu. Am I pronouncing that right? Babu? Cheer, good cheer. Yeah, like being liked. What else? The feminine energy, right? Like the feminine energy always does that. She's always the one that has to be like the mediator, or the, you know, when a empress is being an empress, she is always the one that can soften the energy, you know what I mean? Like, soften the blows. That's why, you know, they use their mind, they use their intelligence to using humour as well. We've got Artemis. Artemis, the Greek goddess of the crescent moon, brings you the blessing of clear direction. Today you will walk the right path in the correct way, for your sacred purpose on planet Earth is to be fulfilled. Wow. How's that? You know, like, blessings of clear direction. So you will be guided, okay? So this is not to despair in all that's going on. Kali, but you've got to have faith, right? The Scottish Gaelic, I don't know. Gaelic? Oh, it's Gaelic. The old winter woman knows that growing older is horrible. Fearful conditioning only separates us from our destiny to be an elder of the tribe. Fearful conditioning, this is what we've been talking about, right? Putting that fear into us, right? Of conditioning. Only separates us from the destiny to be an elder of the tribe. She comes with her ancient blessings of respect and dignity. See, this is having respect and dignity, right? For oneself and the ancestors, right? Now, so the fearful conditioning separates us from our destiny, which is to be an elder of the tribe, right? And then from that, we actually become part of the ether too, if we grow in that, to that frequency. To be that elder, to be that leader, you know? The feminine energies have to be there in the leader roles as well. There needs to be the balance, right? And the balance of power has been out of whack for so long. The demonization of the feminine, the femme-fatale, Hathor, the gifts of flowing water and milk come from the Egyptian goddess Hathor, who now brings you her gifts of fertility, growth and creation. This will provide all you need for the inspiration to create and bring to life your destiny. So that's what we are being guided to do, right? Start creating, use that imagination, saga. Because that's something that the Archons don't have. That's why they clone, right? Because they can't create them themselves, because they have no connection to source. Saga. The Nordic goddess Saga blesses your life story. You must shape your life as if it is a legend waiting to be told. What will be your legacy? Live how you wish to be remembered, bright soul. Yes. So that's how we have to, we've got to live how we want to be remembered. I mean, do we want to be remembered to be, you know, bums and cowards and, you know, nasty or whatever the hell? You won't be remembered, you know. Only the good is remembered, unless, of course, it's been suppressed, right? because that's all part of the history, that's feminine history and indigenous history has been suppressed. It is time, Maat is here, it is time for a grave injustice to be righted. Here we go, wow. And the Egyptian goddess Maat is with you, blessing you with a fair judgment. This rebalancing will bring you peace and a sense of being seen and believed. There we go. So I'm going to leave it with that, right? That was pretty awesome read. I don't know, what am I going to call this? I don't know what heading I'm going to put this, because it's pretty, it's a very important message. So anyway, I'm going to leave you there. I love you and leave you with a little bit of feminine energy, right? And I will send you kisses and blessings, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.